In 2007, police in a remote village in Bihar, India received a disturbing report. A baby girl had vanished without a trace. Officers expected chaos. Crying parents. A desperate family. Maybe even a kidnapper on the run. But when they walked into the station, they found something far more disturbing. An 8-year-old boy. Sitting quietly in a chair. Completely calm. And then, he smiled. To understand this story, you first have to understand the world Amarjeet Sada came from. Masquerade. A tiny forgotten village in Bihar, one of the poorest regions in one of the most densely populated countries on earth. Unpaved roads. Frequent power outages. Schools barely functioning. Families surviving day to day. Life here is loud. Crowded. Chaotic. Children everywhere. Entire families packed into tiny homes, all fighting for the same limited space, the same limited food, the same limited opportunities. And in places like this, quiet children are often overlooked. Amarjeet Sada was born into this world in 1998. His parents were daily wage laborers. Every morning they woke up unsure whether they'd earn enough money to feed the family by nightfall. But when Amarjeet was born, they were happy. A son meant hope. A future. Someone to carry the family name forward. By most accounts, Amarjeet's childhood appeared completely ordinary. He kept to himself. Rarely spoke. Rarely played with other children. He spent most of his time wandering village paths alone, climbing trees, and playing with scraps he found around the neighborhood. Neighbors later described him as distant. But not violent. Not disruptive. Just, quiet. And in Masquerade, a quiet child was easy to ignore. Nobody noticed what was slowly developing beneath the surface. Then, in 2006, everything changed. First, Amarjeet's mother gave birth to a baby girl. A younger sister. For a family already trapped in extreme poverty, another child meant more stress. More mouths to feed. Amarjeet was now around 7 years old. Old enough to observe. Old enough to feel neglected. Did he resent the attention the baby received? Did he see her as competition inside a household already struggling to survive? Nobody knows. Amarjeet never explained it. Then came the second event. Amarjeet's aunt arrived at the family home carrying her infant daughter. She had found work in another city and needed temporary help caring for the child while she got established. So she left the baby behind with the family. Now there were 2 infants inside that tiny overcrowded house. And one afternoon, Amarjeet's mother left for the market. Only for a short while. She left Amarjeet alone with the babies. A 7-year-old boy. Left in charge of 2 infants. What happened next is deeply disturbing. And the reality is more horrifying than anything fiction could invent. Amarjeet began hurting his cousin. Pinching her. Slapping her. Small acts of cruelty that made the infant cry louder and louder. And something about those cries seemed to affect him. Excite him. So he continued. Again. And again. Then he wrapped his hands around the baby's throat. The infant gasped for air. Cried harder. And Amarjeet squeezed tighter. He strangled his cousin to death. Afterward, he carried the tiny body into a nearby wooded area. There, he picked up a brick. And struck the infant's head. Then he buried the body beneath grass and dirt. Quietly. Methodically. And when he finished, he walked home. When Amarjeet's mother returned, the baby was gone. Eventually, Amarjeet confessed to her what he had done. And this was the moment everything could have changed. His mother told his father. His father beat him in anger. And then they covered it up. They told the aunt her child had simply disappeared. They begged her not to contact the police. They called it a family matter. And unbelievably, the aunt stayed silent. Amarjeet faced no punishment. No investigation. No consequences whatsoever. And if you understand the psychology of serial offenders, you already know what often happens next when violence goes unpunished. It escalates. Several months passed. The family buried the tragedy emotionally, just as they had physically buried the body itself. Then one winter afternoon, Amarjeet's parents fell asleep. Nearby, his 8-month-old sister rested quietly in her crib. Amarjeet walked over slowly, picked her up gently, looked at her for a moment. And then, he strangled her. Afterward, he carefully placed her body back into the crib, adjusted the blanket, made everything appear normal. Then he calmly walked away to play with his toy car. When his mother woke up and reached into the crib to feed the baby, she knew instantly. She picked up her daughter and felt the terrifying stillness. The coldness. The silence where breathing should have been. Then she turned toward Amarjeet. Deep down, she already knew. "Did you kill your sister?" Amarjeet looked directly at her. "Yes," he replied. No fear. No tears. No panic. Just, yes. As casually as if he were answering whether he had eaten dinner. This time, the neighbors found out. They begged the family to contact the police. This boy needs help. This cannot be ignored. But once again, the family stayed silent. They protected him. Prayed the nightmare would somehow end on its own. But it didn't end. 2007. Amarjeet is now 8 years old. He has already killed twice. Caught twice. And faced no consequences either time. In criminal psychology, there's a concept known as escalation. Each time violent behavior goes unpunished, it intensifies. The waiting periods become shorter. The violence becomes worse. The targets expand. Amarjeet was no longer focused only on his family. One afternoon, he wandered near a local primary school. A young woman named Chun Devi had left her 6-month-old daughter, Khushboo, sleeping beneath a tree while she stepped away briefly to run an errand nearby. Amarjeet saw the baby lying there alone. He picked her up and carried her into the wooded area beside the school. There, he attacked her with a rock. Then, just like before, he buried the body beneath grass and dirt. And calmly walked away. When Chun Devi returned, her daughter was gone. Panic spread instantly. Neighbors joined the search. And then someone remembered seeing Amarjeet carrying the child. Suspicion immediately fell on him. This time, there was no family cover-up. This time, the police were called. Inspector Shatrughan Kumar had spent years investigating violent crimes. Murders. Assaults. Cases involving the worst things human beings can do to one another. But nothing prepared him for the child sitting across from him that day. An 8-year-old boy. Small. Quiet. Completely calm. No shaking. No crying. No fear. Just sitting there. Smiling. The inspector began asking questions. And Amarjeet tilted his head slightly before making a request. "Give me a packet of biscuits," he said. "And I'll tell you everything." The room reportedly fell silent. The inspector, struggling to contain his anger, handed him the biscuits. And Amarjeet began talking. Calmly. Casually. He described every detail of the murder. How he carried Khushboo into the forest. How he attacked her. How he buried her body. And while describing it, he smiled. Then, without even being asked, he confessed to the earlier murders too. The cousin. The sister. 3 murders. Confessed in exchange for a packet of biscuits. Then Amarjeet stood up and guided officers toward the burial site behind the school. He pointed directly at the ground. Police officers began digging. And there, they found Khushboo. The station reportedly fell silent afterward. Veteran officers who had spent decades around violent crime struggled to process what they had witnessed. Because what made the case so horrifying wasn't only the murders themselves. It was what Amarjeet didn't feel. No guilt. No fear. No shame. No remorse. Psychologists who later evaluated Amarjeet Sada reportedly described him as displaying severe antisocial and sadistic traits. One psychiatrist stated that he showed characteristics commonly associated with psychopathic serial offenders, despite being only 8 years old. And that's where the story became even more disturbing. India's juvenile justice system had never encountered a case like this before. A child that young could not be tried as an adult. Could not receive a life sentence. Could not face execution. So authorities faced an impossible question. What do you do with a child who has committed multiple murders? Amarjeet was eventually sent to a juvenile psychiatric and detention facility in Bihar. There, he reportedly received counseling, psychiatric treatment, and medication for severe behavioral disorders involving aggression and lack of empathy. By law, he could only remain there until adulthood. The media was restricted from accessing many official records. His identity became legally protected under juvenile privacy laws. And slowly, the system attempted to erase the case from public view. Then, in 2016, Amarjeet Sada turned 18 years old. Under Indian juvenile protection laws, he was released. Reportedly with a new identity. A new name. And then, he disappeared back into society. His current whereabouts remain unknown. Some unverified reports claim he may now go by another name, but no confirmed public information exists. 3 children are dead. And the person responsible vanished into anonymity. This case still raises disturbing questions for criminologists, psychologists, and legal experts around the world. Was Amarjeet born this way? Was there something fundamentally broken in his neurological development from the very beginning? Or did his environment shape him into what he became? The poverty. The neglect. The emotional isolation. The repeated failures of the adults around him to intervene when warning signs appeared. Most experts believe the answer is likely a combination of both biology and environment. But what makes this story truly haunting is how many opportunities existed to stop it. After the first murder, Amarjeet confessed. The family hid it. After the second murder, neighbors begged the family to call authorities. Again, they refused. 2 chances. 2 moments where intervention might have changed everything. Those moments passed. And the question that continues haunting investigators isn't only, what created Amarjeet Sada? It's this. Where is he now? He's now an adult. Living somewhere in India under a different identity. Possibly working an ordinary job. Possibly living an ordinary life. Nobody publicly knows whether rehabilitation truly worked. Or whether it even could have worked. 3 small graves in a forgotten village are the only reminders of what this child once became. And somewhere out there, right now, Amarjeet Sada is believed to be living free. The story of Amarjeet Sada is not just a true crime case. It's a warning. About what happens when violent behavior in children is ignored. About what silence can cost. And about how societies struggle to answer impossible questions when the person committing unimaginable acts is still a child.